Joining me now, the founder of the American Truth Project and Daily Ledger contributor, Barry Nussbaum. Barry, I think the message is strong and it's clear here, and I think the president, on this case, is probably just thinking out loud at this point, but the message is clear, and that is if you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. You can't have selective enforcement of the law. You either enforce it or you don't. And in this country, in our civil society, you are to enforce the law.
You know, Graham, we are on the brink in California of a constitutional crisis. I can't remember in American history, with the absence of maybe the Civil War period, where a state is abrogating federal law and is literally telling the federal government, stay out of our state. We will arrest anybody, especially employers under the new California law, that cooperates with the federal government enforcing the security and the borders of the United States of America. This is serious constitutional conflict between the state of California and the federal government.
It's secession. And it's very similar to what transpired just before the Civil War, when the southern states were seceding over, it was a different issue, but it's the same constitutional crisis that you're talking about. And I think that this should be just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, think about this, Barry, for California. There needs to be ramifications, because apparently the leadership in California is not getting the message. So I say to the White House, start pulling up all stakes, non-military stakes. Start pulling them out of California. All assets, all resources. Start with the linear accelerator. I don't know how you pull that thing up out of Stanford there. It's miles long. Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, move it to Kansas, right? Why not? Why not just be the tip of the iceberg here?
Oh, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I mean, Trump's out loud fantasy of, I'll show you, I'll pull out ICE, and then you'll see how bad it is. Well, it's not going to happen. He's really talking about a very serious issue.
Yeah.
The Attorney General, Graham, in California says any employer that cooperates with ICE to get illegals out of their employment area who might be harassing the legal Americans is going to get prosecuted. There's tens of thousands of dollars in fines for following federal law, and that's on the books now. And it was signed by your favorite governor in California.
Yeah, and the Trump administration is doing the right thing here. President Trump is doing the right thing. ICE agents trying to deport illegals in California. They're sweeping through Los Angeles. They're all doing the right thing. This is sending the right message to people who are thinking about breaking into this country. Now, North Korea, on the eve of the end of the Winter Olympics, there's some tough new sanctions from the White House on North Korea. Roll tape.
I do want to say, because people have asked, North Korea, we imposed today the heaviest sanctions ever imposed on a country before. And frankly, hopefully something positive can happen. We will see. But hopefully something positive can happen.
Economic sanctions we're talking about, targeting shipping and companies that deal in trade out of North Korea.
Right. You know, Trump only has three choices, Graham. He's a firm believer in the axiom, when somebody says they're coming to kill you, believe them. Kim Jong-un has been announcing the annihilation of America for quite some time, along with Japan and Guam and South Korea. Trump only has three options. Number one, a preemptive strike to take out our nuclear-armed enemy, which is a last resort. Number two, put tremendous pressure on China, who could stop all this madness in about an hour. That has failed. And number three is the toughest sanctions possible. You know, the interesting thing about the sanctions, Graham, is how are they going to be enforced? If the United States Navy starts boarding ships in the South China Sea, North Korea is going to take that as an act of war, not to mention how are all the other countries who are flagging these ships to help North Korea going to react? This is going to get worse before it gets better, mark my words.
Well, you swerved right into the issue here, and that's the other countries, these other actors that are, under the table helping Kim Jong-un and North Korea when they shouldn't be. In other words, they're going around the sanctions. This needs to stop, and we need to hold these bad actors, these countries that are going around sanctions, we need to hold them accountable, publicly accountable for what they're doing, even if it's a country like China. Barry, thank you.